Another pitcher at American Heritage, Talan Holiday, a kid I like a lot, North Carolina commit. Talan, not the biggest velocity guy, but really good slider. I'm not even sure if this is a slider, it might be his fastball, but yeah, I think that was a slider. And Talon's a really good kid. I was hoping to see him pitch the other day. With the day after I saw Dylan throw, Talon was supposed to throw, and I think I saw Dylan on either Tuesday or yeah, it had to be Tuesday. And then Wednesday comes along, and what happens? What happens every day at 5:30 these days here in South Florida? Lightning, thunder, and no baseball.
It's
So
monsoon, yes.
and it comes out, and it just comes like that.
Right.
But Talon, North Carolina, he's a senior now. So this is his final year, but kid who's pitching two straight state championship games. But just kind of your thoughts on Talon if you could see this pretty well.
Yeah, I can. I certainly can. I see he's got good movement right there. I see that little darting action as the ball's coming into the hitting zone, which is going to throw hitters off. I'll say this right off the top. I like his, I like the speed. I always thought, well, not facing it. These were he appears to me to be somebody that might make me a little bit more uncomfortable because you can, as you see, after he picks up his leg, he accelerates. So there's that idea, just like we talked about with Dylan, where I can get my front foot down early. He seems to accelerate through his mechanics, which, he starts off a little bit slower and then all of a sudden he brings it a little bit faster. So hitters recognize tempo of delivery, and without a shadow of a doubt, again, like we just talked about, if you're going to be kind of slow and methodical, guys are going to have at bats against you. They're not going to feel uncomfortable. A man like this, I can see why he has so much success, because if you watch, that front leg comes up, watch as he accelerates from right there. See, I mean, it's almost like the ball comes out quick. He hides it. You see the ball's behind his back. Where did the ball? I didn't pick up the ball just sitting here. Now, of course, we're watching video, but I didn't see the ball until the ball was out of his hand. See? And so that's where it's going to benefit him. His stuff's going to play up. And so I think that's what he's doing right now. So I've always been a firm believer, especially with young kids. The guys who learn how to pitch first and the velocity comes second are the guys that probably have the brightest futures. Now, the reason I say that is because they're learning the hard part first, and then they're going to try to add velocity through, weight training and mechanics and growing into your body and long tossing and all the things that pitchers do in order to obtain more velocity. More velocity is going to benefit him at some point. But what you see here is a young man who understands how to pitch, and he understands how to pitch already. And so that's why it like, if I hand him 5 or 6 more miles an hour, boy, oh boy, the sky's the limit, right? Because he's already got command and control of his arsenal. He knows how to pitch. He knows how his secondary pitches work. And now he's just adding to it, and he's already kind of got his roadmap in front of him, and he's well on his way. So I look at a young man like this and I get real excited, because to me, it's just really more about, adding velocity as he grows into his body. His mechanics are tight. He's compact. He hides the baseball really, really well, for a high school hitter, because he's not going to make you feel uncomfortable necessarily with velocity right away. He's going to make you uncomfortable with the fact that you can't see the baseball. It's even jumping out at you on video. I'm continuing to watch this. That ball, you're really not even starting to pick it up till it's already out of his hand and it's on its line, towards home plate. So he hides the ball well. He's got good command of his stuff, and he gets results. So, I love this. Kids like this, these are the ones that make me excited. I love kids who know what they're doing and have learned how to throw their breaking ball for a strike, throw it in multiple counts, know how to throw a changeup, obviously know how to change speeds. And then the velocity comes as they grow into their body. The kids that I always worry about are the kids that get away with, I always put it in terms of this, and I hope it makes sense to everybody. If you're a 7-footer in high school, we know you're going to dominate, right? Because you're a 7-foot basketball player, right? And I used to always think of it that way. If you're the same thing and you're throwing 98 miles an hour and you don't do anything else right, but yet you throw 98 miles an hour and you throw just enough strikes, are you going to dominate high school hitters? Of course you are. You're going to dominate them. But if you don't work on your game, even starting in high school, the sky's not the limit for you, because you have to learn about how to harness that. Because the higher you get, even in baseball, 98 gets hit all the time. and you have to have an arsenal to go along with it. You have to know how to set it up. I mean, very few guys. I always remember the Aroldis Chapman story, right? So Aroldis Chapman, one of the greatest closers our game's ever seen, throws well over 100 miles an hour, 102, 106. He was just absolutely blowing the world away. But there was a point in his career where he started to identify that guys were starting to put together better at bats against him. The game was hiding him in 14 pitch outings. And I remember there was a time when the Cincinnati Reds were considering putting him in the rotation, which was kind of this journey that was kind of starting in our sport, which was guys would kind of, they would use younger guys in the bullpen. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, they knew that the big payday was in being a starting pitching. And we want more innings from our best guy. But the reality was that Aroldis realized that he's best when he is going to throw 104 miles an hour for 14 to 20 pitches, 2 out of 3 nights. And that was the best form of himself. And of course, that's the journey that his career was on. And the Reds chose not to put him in the rotation. And I think it was a smart decision because it led to, one of the best closers in the game. But the reason I say it that way is because the velocity was always there. The arsenal, the slider that came along with Aroldis as his career moved on wasn't there at the beginning. And so he was going to have to learn this while, being a regular starter, taking the ball every 5th day, and probably that velocity dropping down because now he's got to throw 100 pitches in a ball game. And he's not just the, 104 miles an hour, 14 times a night. He was getting away with that. When you see a guy only one time, advantage pitcher. If I see you a second time, it's a little bit more in the middle. If I see you a third time, it really doesn't matter who you are, advantage hitter, because now I know you. I know your mechanics. I know your release point. I know your arsenal, unless I've gone up there and just swung at the first pitch all night. But if I'm watching the ball game, I'm now in rhythm with you by the third time I face you. And that's what being a great starter at the major league level is all about. It's really very rarely about that first time through the lineup. It's about the second and third time through the lineup, because big league hitters know how to make adjustments. They know how to pick up on what you're doing. They know how to pick up on your patterns. They know that every time you get to an 0-2 count, you try to bury a slider in the dirt. They're going up there. They already know it's coming. See what I'm saying? Like, all of these things matter.
Yep.
And that's understanding pitching. But when you've got an arsenal like the young man we just watched, you've got multiple ways to get hitters out. And as he grows into his body and puts on that man muscle and starts adding a few miles an hour, he is going to accelerate through the system probably a lot quicker than the kid who throws 98 miles an hour and just is resting on that. Like I said about the basketball, right? At 7 feet in high school, you're dunking on everybody, right? You just get him the ball in the middle. Yep. He's standing taller than everybody. He can dunk it in. But if that's all his game ultimately becomes, as he advances to the next level, people are going to learn how to defend him. He better have some moves. He better have an inside move. He better have a jump hook or something that plays along with his game. It can't just be simply you grabbing the ball and trying to dunk it on everybody, because as you get farther down the road, you get to Division I basketball, they're going to learn how to defend you.
Yeah. And Talan Holiday here. Talan last year threw a perfect game against Taravella. He really good kid. And, and like I said, he's already got the out pitch with the slider, and that could be a real heavy, and it's a late breaking slider. And because I saw that perfect game, I don't think he missed a spot. Well, obviously you're perfect. He didn't give up anything. I'm not even sure how many 3 ball counts he even had in that game. I never hit that. Obviously it was the best I ever saw him, but he was just hitting every spot. Fastball was right there. And then, he got hitters in the slider count, and just, they had no prayer. Then I did that video of him, a start or two after that. And I think I discussed it either with Talan or his dad. You could just see the slider wasn't as tight. It wasn't as good of a slider on that particular day, but it's his plus pitch. That's just another thing just to keep in mind for our young players. The slider may be your best pitch, but like as a hitter, you might have a great swing that day, but you can't bottle that perfect swing. Right, you may think you're there, but it's not. And the thing about video is that's how I was able to see it. You can see the slider wasn't as tight, but kids, don't get discouraged by it. That's just baseball. You're not a machine. If you're not the pitcher